Okay, I want you to take a second and try to access a specific memory. Think about the last time you felt, and I mean really felt, terrified. I'm not talking about that nagging, oh no, did I leave the oven on kind of worry.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that visceral, primal signal.
Oh, yeah.
Your palms get slick, your heart starts hammering against your ribs like it's trying to break out, and every single muscle just tightens up with that urge to turn around and run.
The classic fight or flight response, the body just mobilizing for survival.
Exactly. And usually we associate that with actual physical danger, right? Hearing a window break downstairs or almost stepping on a snake.
For sure.
But here's the question for today. Have you ever had that exact same biological crash, that same adrenaline rush, while sitting perfectly still on your couch, just holding a piece of plastic?
It's a really unique modern phenomenon, isn't
Yeah.
it? We actually pay good money to be scared. But I think we often underestimate just how physical that fear actually is. We tell ourselves, it's all in my head, it's just pixels on a screen. But the data, the data suggests our bodies often disagree.
And that is exactly what we are digging into today. We were not just trading ghost stories or personal opinions on what's spooky.
No.
We are digging into a fascinating piece of research called The Top 10 Scariest Video Games, according to science. And the reason I wanted to cover this is that it takes all the subjectivity out of it.
Right. It's not a critic saying this atmosphere is spooky. It's hard physiological data.
We're going to unpack how researchers put a number on fear, reveal which games are statistically most likely to give you a heart attack, metaphorically, mostly, and figure out why sitting in an ergonomic chair can be the cardiovascular equivalent of a moderate workout.
So to ground us a bit, let's look at the source. This study was conducted by a team at Broadband Choices as part of their Science of Scare project. And they looked at the landscape of horror gaming across a massive window titles released between 1992 and 2022.
Wow, so that covers the whole history of modern gaming, basically. From the blocky, pixelated blobs of the early 90s up to the photorealistic nightmares we have today.
It does. And to narrow it down, they started by having critics and horror fans compile this huge list of the top horror games ever made.
So they cast a wide net first.
A very wide net. But the real science happened next. They got 200 volunteers to actually play these games.
Right.
And they didn't just watch them and ask, was that scary? They hooked them up to heart rate monitors to track their biometrics in real time.
I love that mental image. Just 200 people in a dark room, wired up like lab rats, just waiting to be terrified. It sounds like the start of a horror movie itself.
It's a great visual, but it gave us this clean, objective data. They were measuring heart rate beats per minute, or BPM, and they established a resting baseline for everybody, which averaged out to about 65 BPM.
Okay, let's pause on that number for a second. 65 BPM. That is a very chill, resting state. If you're just sitting there listening to us right now, you're probably somewhere around there.
Unless you've had, 3 espressos this morning?
True. But generally, 65 is the safe zone. It's calm. So the researchers watched what happened when the game started, and they were looking for two specific things.
Right. The sustained increase in heart rate and the spikes.
The spikes.
And just a quick note on the scope. Because the study was done in summer 2022, it doesn't cover anything released in the last couple of years.
Gotcha.
Also, and this is important for collectors, they only tested games you could currently buy on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox.
So if there's some obscure, out-of-print cult classic from 95, that's why it's not on the list.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into the methodology a bit deeper before we hit the rankings. You mentioned two key metrics, average BPM and the spike. Why do we need both?
Well, because they measure two very different kinds of fear. The average BPM, that's the sustained heart rate, that measures tension. It measures atmosphere. It's that feeling of dread when you're walking down a dark hallway and nothing's happening.
But you know something is about to happen. The anticipation.
Exactly, that stress of the unknown. If a game keeps your heart rate high for 30 minutes, that's intense systemic stress. It means the game never lets you relax.
Right.
The highest spike, on the other hand, that measures the immediate reaction to a jump scare. That's the startle reflex.
So one is the slow burn, the dread, and the other is the sudden shock.
You got it. And again, just keep that baseline in your head. 65 beats per minute. That is our safe zone.
And the numbers we are about to discuss are, well, they're nowhere near 65.
Not even close.
Let's just jump right into the deep end, the gold standard of scares. The top three, coming in at rank #1, the undisputed champion, is a game called Madison.
A 2022 release, so it was brand new when the study happened, and the numbers here are genuinely shocking.
I don't know if shocking is strong enough, maybe concerning. The average heart rate for players of Madison was 97 BPM.
97. To put that in context, that is not just excited. If you look at standard exercise charts, that is roughly equivalent to a moderate jog.
Think about that. You're sitting on your sofa, you are not moving, but your heart is doing the same amount of work as if you were jogging around the block.
Playing this game is literally cardio.
It is. And that's just the average. The highest recorded heart rate hit 131 BPM.
131.
That is full-on sprinting territory for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it about Madison? Why is it hitting people this hard?
Well, it's a first-person psychological horror game. You play as a teenager, Luca. And the setup is just classic nightmare fuel. You're in a big empty house dealing with a possessed instant camera and the spirit of a serial killer.
Possessed instant camera is such a specific and terrifying mechanic.
It is. I think that mechanic is key to why it took the top spot. You have to restrict your vision to see the threat, right? You bring the camera up, you lose your peripheral vision, and you're actively searching for the thing that wants to hurt you. But, more broadly, we see this trend where the first-person perspective is just incredibly effective.
It puts you right there.
You are Luca. When that camera flashes and reveals a demon standing 3 inches from your nose, your brain interprets that as a threat to you, not some character on a screen.
It removes that layer of separation. It's invasive.
Yeah.
Okay, so Madison is the king of cardio, but the runner-up was incredibly close. Rank number 2 is Alien Isolation from back in 2014.
This one is so interesting because it's a sci-fi setting. You'd think spaceships and lasers would feel a bit more removed.
Yeah, you can distance yourself.
But the average heart rate here was 96 BPM.
That is only 1 beat behind the winner.
It's basically a statistical tie in terms of sustained tension, and the spike was 127 BPM.
Alien Isolation is scary on such a primal level. You're playing as Amanda Ripley looking for her mother, set after the original movie. But the thing that strikes me here is the release date. Madison was 2022, cutting-edge graphics, all that stuff. Alien Isolation is from 2014. In gaming years, that's ancient.
It's a lifetime ago in tech terms.
Yet it's nearly tied for the scariest experience ever made.
Each you.
It just shows you that graphical fidelity, how many polygons you can cram onto a screen. It's not the only factor.
Not at all. Alien Isolation isn't scary because it looks photoreal, though it does still look great. It's scary because of the AI. The alien in that game, it learns, it hunts you.
Oh, I hate
it doesn't have a set path. If you hide in a locker too many times, it learns to check the lockers.
Nope, don't like that at all.
And that creates a persistent sense of dread that doesn't age. You never feel safe. So that average heart rate stays pinned at 96 because you are constantly being hunted.
It's the unpredictability. Okay, let's move to rank number 3. We have a game called Visage.
Another psychological horror. The average heart rate was 94 BPM, so still very high tension.
But look at the spike. The spike for Visage was 128 BPM. That's actually higher than Alien Isolation.
It is. Visage puts you in this huge, sprawling house, again, the domestic setting, and you're learning about the tragic history of the souls that used to live there.
I'm seeing a pattern here with the top 3. They're all psychological horrors. They're about inescapable threats.
That's a key observation. The top 3 aren't action games where you're mowing down zombies with a machine gun. They are games where you are largely vulnerable.
It's disempowerment. If I have a rocket launcher, I'm not scared, I'm aggressive. If I have a flashlight with a dying battery, I'm terrified.
Exactly. When you strip away the power fantasy, all that's left is survival.
Okay, so that's the podium. But let's look at the mid-pack, ranks 4 through 6, because something really interesting happens with the numbers here.
Right. So rank number 4 is Five Nights at Freddy's 4.
A classic. My nephew loves those, which concerns me, but that's a topic for another day.
Rank number 5 is Outlast 2. And rank number 6 is Resident Evil the 7th, Biohazard.
All heavy hitters. Big names.
Definitely. Now, the average heart rates drop a little here. 92, 91, and 90 BPM. Still way above resting, but I want you to look at the spikes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the data. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 spoke to 122 BPM. Outlast 2 spiked to 121. Resident Evil the 7th, 121 again.
It's remarkably consistent.
It's weirdly precise. It's like there's a ceiling.
That's exactly what it looks like. It suggests that for the average person, a standard, well-executed jump scare hits a physiological limit around, 121 or 122 BPM in this tier.
And Five Nights at Freddy's is famously almost entirely built on jump scares. That's the whole game.
It is. But I find Resident Evil 7 being down at number 6 interesting. It's first person, it's in a scary, rotting house, it has all the ingredients of the top 3.
But in Resident Evil, you eventually get a gun.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you can fight back. That agency, that ability to say, I am not just a victim, seems to slightly lower the sustained panic compared to games where you just run and hide.
That's a really good point. A shotgun is a great stress reliever.
It really is. Fight feels better than flee.
Now, as we round out the top 10, we hit a really weird anomaly at rank number 7. Bloodborne.
Ah, Bloodborne. This is the outlier of the group.
The stats are so weird here. The average BPM is 89. That's high. But the spike is only 101 BPM. That is the lowest spike in the entire top 10.
By a lot.
By a lot. Every other game is hitting 120 plus, and Bloodborne is just chilling at 101.
This tells us something really important about how Bloodborne scares you, or rather how it stresses you. It's not a horror game in the boo sense. It's an action RPG from Software, the Dark Souls people.
Right. It's hard. It's notoriously punishing.
The high average heart rate comes from the difficulty, the intensity of the combat. You're stressed because the game is demanding.
You're stressed because you haven't found a save point and you don't want to die and lose all your currency. It's fear of failure, not fear of a monster popping out of a closet.
Precisely. It relies on adrenaline and focus rather than the startle reflex. It's a different kind of fear. Performance anxiety, basically.
That makes total sense. And quickly rounding out the list. Rank number 8 is Amnesia, The Dark Descent.
A total classic. Basically invented the modern run-and-hide genre, 88 BPM average, but a nasty 126 BPM spike.
Oof. That spike is higher than the games in the 4 to 6 spots.
Yeah, Amnesia really mastered that defenselessness mechanic. Even an older game can still deliver a massive shock to the system.
Rank 9 is The Forest, with an 86 average and a 125 spike. And finally, number 10, Dead Space.
85 BPM average, 121 spike.
So even at number 10, we are looking at a heart rate 20 beats per minute above resting.
Right. There are no relaxing games on this list. Every single one is keeping your body in a state of elevated arousal, a yellow alert status for hours.
So we've looked at the games, but I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the first-person factor. Because looking at this list, Madison, Alien Isolation, Visage, Outlast, almost all of the top hitters put you right behind the eyes of the character.
This was a key finding noted in the source text. First-person horror games just dominated the list.
It comes back to that immersion, right? The source makes a bold claim. It says horror movies and TV shows, they can't compete with video games in terms of immersion.
And the data supports that. I mean, think about it. When you watch a horror movie, you are a passive observer. You're safe in your seat. You might yell at the screen, "Don't go in the basement, you idiot."
Right.
But you're safe.
Hey, the character is making the mistake, not me. I'm just eating popcorn.
Exactly. But in a game, especially a first-person game, you have to go into the basement. The narrative does not advance unless you push the stick forward.
That is a huge psychological difference. It forces you to be complicit in your own terror.
It creates the sense of responsibility. And physiologically, the sustained heart rate elevation proves the brain struggles to distinguish the digital threat from physical danger when you are the one opening the door.
It's that suspension of disbelief, but on a biological level.
Yeah.
Your logical brain knows you're on the couch, but your lizard brain, the amygdala, sees a monster chasing you and says, "Run, idiot, run."
And since you can't run physically, your heart runs for you.
Hence the 97 BPM average in Madison.
Precisely. Your body's preparing for a sprint that never happens.
Which brings us to the health angle.
Yeah.
Is this bad for us? I mean, we treat this as entertainment. But if I told you I was going to spike my cortisol and race my heart for 3 hours straight, you'd tell me to go to a hospital.
It's a valid question. Acute stress, short bursts, that's usually fine. It's exhilarating. That's why we ride roller coasters.
Right.
But chronic stress, keeping that heart rate at 97 for a 4-hour gaming session, that's taxing. It is surprisingly draining.
That explains why I feel physically exhausted after a long session of Resident Evil. I haven't moved, but I feel like I've run a marathon. My hands are shaking.
You've burned the energy. You just did it chemically instead of mechanically.
So let's wrap this up. We've learned that Madison is the current heavyweight champion of terrifying our cardiovascular systems. We've learned that Alien Isolation proves you don't need 2022 graphics to be terrifying. You just need a really smart homicidal alien.
And we've learned that gaming isn't just a sedentary hobby, apparently. It's a moderate jog if you pick the right genre.
It certainly challenges the stereotype of the lazy gamer.
If you're listening and you feel like you need to test your own ticker, the expert recommendation is to check out that top 3. But maybe consult your doctor first.
Or at least keep the lights on.
Yes.
And maybe take breaks. The full top 25 list is on the Broadband Choices website, if you're curious.
It's worth a look to see where your favorites land.
So before we go, what's the big takeaway for you? What should the listener carry with them?
I think the most provocative thought to leave you with is this. We saw the #1 game produced a heart rate equivalent to a moderate jog. 97 BPM. We do this for fun. We call it entertainment. But physiologically, your body is pumping cortisol and adrenaline just as if you were in actual peril. So at what point does entertainment cross the line into actual harmful stress? And more importantly, does your heart actually know the difference between running from a digital serial killer in Madison and running from a real one? The data suggests it might not know the difference at all.
That is a terrifying thought to end on. Maybe I'll stick to Animal Crossing for a few days until my baseline comes back down. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time, hopefully with a lower heart rate.